वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरु विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वर गुरु साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे नमः. I welcome everyone who are in temple as well as who are online. We are going forward with our path on study of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Why we are studying? To get punya, to get good life after death in Swarg? No, not for that. It is to live happily in this world. यहाँ हम कैसे सुख शांति से रह सकते हैं सब लोग साथ में मिलकर. That is the purpose of study of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. If the purpose is to live happily in Swarga, then it would not have been told here on the path, on the earth. It would have been told in Swarga. So naturally, it is for the people who are living on the surface of the earth. How to live happily, how to live together, how to live cohesively, with the cooperation of each other, with such a great variety in the world. That is the purpose. And we are studying Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. And we are on the third chapter. We are almost at the end of the third chapter, Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga Nama Trutiyo Adhyaya. This is the third chapter. And we took a metaphor of driving a car. We took a metaphor last time of while we study while we are learning how to run a car, we first get to know what are the parts of the car which we use so that we can run the car safely, we can run the car as we want. In the same way, when we want to live in our life, we should know which are the tools given by the God to us to live in this life, to live life happily, to enjoy the world, to be with the people, to be with our family, our friends, and be happy. God has told us so that we are supposed to be happy. Why? Because a father will never even wish or think to make their children unhappy, isn't it? एक बाप है वो अपने बच्चों को कभी भी दुखी नहीं देख सकता. So what they give money, they train them. In the same way, the God is the creator. He is our father. When the God is our father, He will try to see that, leave a message so that we are all living happily. That is why God has spoken Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Yes, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So, Shrimad Bhagavad Gita is for that. And just like the driving, we have to understand where is the accelerator, where is the brake. If it is a gear car, stick car, then where is the clutch, where are the gears, are to move the gears. And also depending on the road condition, where you want to go, how many people are there in the car, whether there are any children, there are any old people with you in the car. All these things has to be considered while driving a car, while learning a car. You should not only know how the engine and the various mechanisms are working, but you should also know how to drive the car, when to use which tool, when to accelerate, when to brake, when to go slow, when to go fast, when to drive cautiously. There will be a variety of conditions on the road, the weather, the snow, the slippery roads. It will be there. And in all those conditions, we have to learn how to drive. So there are 2 points in it. Which are the 2 things? One is to learn the tools, how the car is driven. And second is to learn how to drive. These are the 2 things. In the same way, in our life, God has given us 3 tools. The senses, the mind, and the intellect. Indriya, mana और बुद्धि दी हुई है. And that is the sloka we were in. And we were last time looking at how the mind works. What are the functions of mind? How does the mind behave? How is the mechanism within the mind? And we were looking at that, and then we started with the intellect, and then we stopped there because of the time. So we will go further from there. So we thought about how does the mind work and what are the functions and how it is useful in life. Yes, how we can use it in life. It is not only important to know that accelerator increases the speed, but when to increase and where to decrease is to be known. In the same way, how we can use the mind and which part in our life we should use the mind. Then we looked at the functions of intellect. So with these three tools, God has given us the sloka. So I will chant the sloka first and then we will go further from that. The sloka is 40th sloka of third chapter. Indriyani manor buddhir asyadhisthana muchyate etair vimohayatyesha gnanam avrutya dehinam. What's the meaning? Indriyani mano buddhi. Indriya, mana and buddhi. Senses, mind and intellect. Asyadhisthana, dwelling place. It's a dwelling place. Muchyate is dwelling place. Uchyate is said to be. So, it is a dwelling place. For what? Etair vimohayatyesha. Vimohayati. Delusion. So, Indriya, mind and intellect are the locations of delusion. That is what it is telling. And by delusion, what happens? Gnanam avrutya dehinam. The jnana, the knowledge is avruttam. It clouds. We took this avrutta word in detail in previous three slokas also. What is avruttam? Avruttam, it clouds dehinam, the embodied soul. So all these things are connected to embodied souls. It is not for the non-embodied souls. In other words, we can say there are souls which are not embodied still. पूछते हैं लोग भूत है, जरूर से है, मगर वो दांत वाले, सींग वाले, ऐसे खाने वाले, खून पीने वाले ऐसा नहीं है. It is a situation between two births, between two dehina. So gnanam avrutya dehina. All those people who are embodied, those people, gnanam, the knowledge is avruttam, clouded in these three places. That is what God is telling. And then we looked at the functions of mana. Mana kya karta hai? What are the functions of mana? And we looked at, the mechanism of preferences, higher level and lower level preferences. We also looked at, the suggestions, the wishes, the choices and likes and dislikes which happen in the mind. Repetition of preferred experience, and also still getting bored with too much repetition. So variety and change in choices with external and internal factors. We talked about it. And then we were looking at intellect. And in intellect, we were looking at what are the functions within intellect. So there we talked about the purpose. Last time I rushed through it, so we may repeat it a little bit here now. The intellect is, first of all, finding the purpose. Kyon karna? The mind never asks it. Mind just says, I like it, so I will do it. But the intellect will ask, kyon karna? Purpose, what is the purpose? What is the goal and objective? Uddeshya kya hai? It will ask questions. Mind never asks a question. Mind always gives a preference. Ye khana hai, wo khana hai. But intellect will ask the questions. Are there any issues? Are there any problems in this? It will ask for information, data, facts, evidences. क्या है? सबूत मांगते हैं, अवलोकन करते हैं. Observation, experiences, previous experiences, referencing, reasons why we do it. All this is done in the intellect. बुद्धि के अंदर ये होता है. Then it has got concepts, theories, definitions, laws. उसके अंदर निष्कर्ष होता है, समाधान, व्याख्याएं होती है. And then also there are assumptions. Assumptions करते हैं. Assumptions, presupposition, axioms, and taking for granted. These are also the functions within the intellect. Intellect ये सब क्या करता है? अवधारणा, सिद्धांत, परिभाषा, कानून, सिद्धांत, ये सब करता है. And then धारणाएं, निहितार्थ, परिणाम, तर्क और प्रभाव, तर्क करता है. The biggest part of intellect is logic and effect. These are the things which are happening in the intellect. And then point of view, frame of reference, perspective, orientation and worldview. These are the functions of intellect. Now somebody may ask, इतना सब सोचना क्यों? Why इतना सब सोचना क्यों? Why we have to think of all these things. But remember, when you to drive, you want to know all the functions in the car. कैसे दरवाजा खुलता है? Not only how to drive the car, how does the door open? How does the glasses go down? How does the glasses go up? How the heating and cooling in the car is working? Even though it is not the basic function of the car, you can still drive the car. But you should know it to drive it better. In the same way, we should know what are the other things which intellect can do, what are the things the mind can do. And once we know it, then we can use it in a proper way, when to use and how to use. Then we talk about the initial condition is of new experiences. Mind is just a suggestion. एक लड़की है, घर में रोटी बनाना सीख रही है, तवा सामने गरम है, माँ बोलती है देखो जल मत जाना, don't get burnt, the plate may be hot. Now her mind is telling simple thing, if it is hot you will get burned, so keep away. But the intellect says, नहीं जरा थोड़ा हाथ ऐसा दूर रख के देखते हैं, just keep a hand little away and feel if there is a lot of heat coming or not. If there is heat coming. Intellect does that. Mind does not. Mind just says if you touch you will be burned. But intellect says let me try. Initial conditions of the new experiences. And once that is coming repeatedly, then the intellect hands it over to the mind, which is called as a habit. Remember the first time we were driving a bicycle? We were like really shaking our handle and we were looking here and there, we were looking in the front, and our father or brother who is teaching us will say, no, don't look at the tire, look in the front and you will drive correctly. You look in the front and drive correctly. So, and then after some time when we are used to it, it comes in auto mode, then we do not have to worry about whether we will fall or not. We just keep riding a bike. Same way, a repeated experience becomes a habit. लोग पूछते हैं, people ask, गीता पढ़ने में बोर हो जाते हैं, समझ में नहीं आता है, कैसे करें? How do we do it? पहली ही बार पढ़ के ही बाजू में रख दी है, रिपीट करो, हैबिट हो जाएगी, पढ़ने में मजा आएगा. So the intellect is also having an independent strength. It decides for the future course of action and convincing reasons. That is what the intellect is doing. So how to apply this knowledge in everyday life? This is the question. Yes, our intellect is doing this and mind is doing this. How do we apply in everyday life? Simple thing. It's very simple. Ask a question to the intellect, not to the mind. Ask a question to the intellect before taking any action or before taking any decision. Is this action is a prayer or shreya for me? Now what is prayer and shreya? One which is good for me is shreya, and one which I like to do is prayer. And then there are always some kind of conflict or some kind of adjustment in between. Prayer versus shreya, preferences versus betterment of myself in the life. So what is it? Prayer means something the mind likes to do through the senses. I always give example of food, so this time also I'll take example of food. मन कहता है समोसे खा लो, बहुत अच्छे हैं, गर्मा गर्म बनाए हैं, अच्छी सुगंध आ रही है, very nice fragrance coming from a freshly fried samosas, very sweet gulab jamun. The mind is telling, let us eat. It is going to give a great taste to the tongue. But intellect says, no, you have got a high cholesterol. Doctor has told you, no fried items, no sweet. You have got sugar, you have got diabetes. Intellect says it. Intellect will never keep silent. But the mind will say, go for it. Food, habit, way of life, all these things, so many parts. This is just an example is food. Yeah. Now, if intellect is weaker, some people say, नहीं वो क्या मनोबल, दृढ़ मनोबल होना चाहिए. मनोबल नहीं होना चाहिए, बुद्धिबल होना चाहिए. लोग कहते हैं दृढ़ मनोबल से आदमी कुछ भी कर सकता है. दृढ़ मनोबल नहीं, दृढ़ बुद्धि का बल होना चाहिए. बुद्धि मन को दृढ़ बनाएगी और फिर मन से काम करेंगे. मगर पहले बुद्धि दृढ़ होनी चाहिए. अगर बुद्धि ही दृढ़ नहीं है तो वो मन उसको खींच के लेके जाएगा. खा लेते हैं, समोसे खा लेते हैं, थोड़ा गुलाब जामुन, 2 गुलाब जामुन खाया, उसमें क्या है, डॉक्टर को बोलना है 1 गोली और दे देना. उसमें क्या, मन स्ट्रांग हो गया. और अगर इंटेलेक्ट वीक हो गया, इफ इंटेलेक्ट इज वीकर देन माइंड, विच इज नेचुरल इन चाइल्डहुड, फॉर मोस्ट ह्यूमंस, द डिसीजन इज टुवर्ड्स द प्रेयर. अच्छा क्या लगता है, मुझे क्या अच्छा लगता है वो मैं करूंगा. I will do the things which I like to do, which I got a previous experience of happiness through my sensual experiences. Yeah, that is what I will do. Now, to make the mind less stronger, or rather to make the intellect more stronger than the mind, there should be something done to the mind, and something is to be done to the intellect. And that doing something itself is nothing but the sanskar. We get sanskars, yeah, Shodasa sanskar. There are 16 sanskars written for in our Sanatana Dharma. This 16 sanskar has to be done on every human being as per Sanatana Dharma. And this sanskar is to be done on every human to make them fitting in the social life. अच्छा लगता है मगर नहीं करना चाहिए. टीचिंग टू कंट्रोल द माइंड थ्रू स्ट्रॉन्ग इंटेलेक्ट. जो 16 संस्कार है, ये संस्कार पूरे के पूरे वही है. Hence the body will be controlled by the intellect through the mind. The body will be controlled, the senses will be controlled by the intellect through the mind. That is what the sanskar is. How do we say that a intellect can be stronger? A physical evidence. There are physical evidences. Well, sometimes we have seen examples of people not getting anesthesia and going through the surgery. We have seen those examples. So, what happens? They are told we can't give you anesthesia, or there are some other technical reasons. So, these people say, okay, don't worry, do the operation without anesthesia. Do they not feel the pain? Answer is, they do feel pain. Still, they go through the surgery without any crying and jumping and all? Yes. How? Intellect. Intellect has controlled the mana, the mind, and hence the senses. So even though the senses are crying out, crying that, oh, I am having pain and all, the mind says, yes, this is the time to experience the pain, don't shout. So, if the intellect has more independent strength than mind, this is the word, this is a sentence to remember. If the intellect has more independent strength than mind, the decision is Shreya. What is good for me? Now here, for me does not mean individually, which is good for me, my family, the society, the village, the country, and finally for my soul. This is the ultimate goal. Ultimate goal is what is good for my soul. मेरे आत्मा की उन्नति के लिए ये सही है या गलत है. This is the one. ये काम करने से, always ask a question. ये काम करने से क्या मेरी आत्मा की उन्नति हो सकती है? This is the final question. But everybody may not be at that level. So at a very low level, at a very, very low level, ask a question. I feel like smoking, but I have already smoked 2 cigarettes. It's my budget for the day. So should I go for 3rd cigarette? Intellect will definitely say no. So don't smoke, and it is good for your health. Eventually, if your intellect is that strong, you can get rid of smoking. So, if the intellect has more independent strength than mind, then the decision is correct. So we should always ask ourselves a question. Make it a habit. Small practice every day. Very small. Not big, because a practice will eventually become a habit, and now the mind will develop a habit to get in control with intellect, through intellect. Small decisions, petty, But small decisions. जिम्नेशियम में जाना है, जिम जाना है, एक्सरसाइज करनी है. Start it with small. Only 5 dand बैठक. It takes hardly not more than 1 minute. But you start doing exercise. What happens? Somebody will ask, only doing 5 dand बैठक, only doing 5 setups. Oh, how my health will improve? First, it is not the health to improve. First, it is to improve in the mechanism of yourself. Can intellect start controlling the mind? Otherwise तो सोते रहो अच्छे से. अभी क्या exercise करना? But slowly once we get into a habit, the intellect will tell the mind, no, you have to do 5 dand बैठक. 5 setups करो. 5 setups will not take more than 30 seconds. If you keep doing 5 setups, it will not improve your health. Let me tell you. Because 5 setups are not enough to raise the blood pressure, to raise the pulsing rate. It's not enough. So if you do only 5 setups, you will not improve your health. Maybe little or intangible. But what is improved is the control of intellect or mind. And then slowly it will become 5 setups, 10 setups, and you can do 100, 200 setups, which will improve your health eventually. Small decisions, food, healthy habits, sleeping, eating in time, not sitting in front of television and keep it on and keep changing the channel. 3 hours, 4 hours, couch potatoes. You will not become like that. So it is going to improve our health. Why all this mechanism? One of the example is improving our health. You go out with the friends, doctor's advice. You go out with the friends, you go for sports, you go for swimming. होता नहीं है. क्यों नहीं होता है? Why can't we do it? Is it because of the money? It is because of the physical? No, it is because the intellect is not strong enough to overcome what the mind is telling. Mind is telling, बैठे रहो भी जाने दो कल करेंगे. But intellect must be strong enough. So start with small decision, not big, very small. And that is why there are so many things. I will give example of myself. When I took what is called as a Janoi, the thread ceremony in Hindus, Brahmins go through the thread ceremony. They wear the thread, the sacred thread. So when I was, I went through the thread ceremony, the Pandit who was giving me the thread, he told me that you just can't wear the thread just like that. You have to take some oath, a small, even if it is very small, you have to take that oath. व्रत लेना पड़ेगा. You have to take an oath, even if it is smallest. Then only you can have the thread. So I asked him. I was a 7-year-old boy. I don't know anything about it. I don't know how the mind works, how intellect works, all this mechanism. I don't know. So I asked him only, okay, what should I be doing? And he told me, you do one thing. Do not eat after you get up in the morning. Do not eat anything before you take the bath. And that was easiest for me at that time, a 7-year-old boy. Because what I was doing was getting up, taking bath, and then drink milk and some, breakfast, and then go to the school. So it was my normal chore. It was my normal activity every day. So I thought, this is very easy. No problem. I will take this oath. Very easy. Very, very easy for me. So I took that oath. And then when I grew up, I started learning that how much difficult it is. How various conditions come in life. And how do I get through them with the same oath? Very challenging. I am traveling 18 hours, 20 hours in the train. It's already morning. It's very hot outside. The train is not air conditioned. And I can't eat, I can't drink anything. Why? Because I have not taken bath. Very difficult. You go for camping, you have not taken any bath. All the people are taking breakfast. And you can't take it. Why? Because I have not taken the bath. You go for hiking, 2 days hike, no bath. Very difficult. So, even though it is a small decision, it becomes a very challenging. And in that time, the intellect works. Intellect makes you stronger. That is all. And even the fasting, there are religious schools of thoughts. which has given various ways of fasting. Why are we doing fasting? And then people will find all the scientific reasons for it. Fasting will improve, and this bacteria and that bacteria, and the healthy diet system and all those things. But basically what it does, it improves the quality, the control of intellect on mind. That is what is the biggest achievement by fasting. And so here the God has told us that it is asya dishtan, it is breeding ground. Remember, it is told it is breeding ground. All these three, body, the senses, the mind and intellect, are breeding ground for the kama and krodha, indriyani, itar, vimoha. So it is breeding ground. Now, God is telling that it is seeding ground or breeding ground, and we have got the example that Ravan, bad intellect, infected by ego. What happens? Even though there are all the good qualities, the intellect is very bad, and that is why it is to be trained. By whom? How do we train intellect? So when we say intellect should be strong, intellect should be good, intellect should take right decision, but what is right is another big question. What is right is another big question. So here we are going to talk about something which is at present going on in the world. आज की तारीख में दुनिया में हो रहा है. When we say Shrimad Bhagavad Gita can bring the solution to the world problems, how it is applicable here, that is also here. In our Sanatan we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we will make the world a one kutum, one family. That is what we say. But what happens if the intellect is tainted? Intellect is sometimes tainted through various thoughts, through thoughts of religion, through thoughts of patriotism. We will take, there are so many examples, but we will take two examples over here. So there are two schools of thoughts. One school of thought is telling that woman is an entry door for the hell. नारी नर्क का द्वार है, ऐसा एक स्कूल ऑफ थॉट बोलता है. One school of thought is telling like that. And there are many people, you must have heard. You must have heard so many people telling like that. That is one school of thought. And the other school of thought is telling that if you do good deeds, you will go to heaven. And what you will get in heaven? Nari. You will get so many beautiful women in Swarga. And the other school of thought is telling that Nari is an entrance door for the hell. How these two will match? Well, how does the intellect work? How will intellect decide with these two schools of thoughts, which are totally opposite to each other? They are telling, and they are very strong schools of thoughts. One school of thought is telling, another example, that killing even a small insect is a sin. छोटे से छोटे जीव को भी मारना पाप है, अहिंसा, अहिंसा परमो धर्म. One school of thought is telling that. And the other school is telling that killing others in the path of God is a pious work. How they will come together? How that both will come? And these are only two examples. There are so many schools of thoughts. They are telling in different way. They are training. Thousands and millions of people and humans are being trained by multiple schools of thoughts to think in multiple ways. So what happens? Even though a good person, a good-hearted person, a nice person, but his intellect is taught to do some kind of actions which are actually not good for others. That is the reason why there are two major wars going on as of today. Major war. Thousands are killed. Hundreds of kids are killed. No food, no water. Why? Abduction of people. Why? Because of the two schools of thoughts. If they cannot decide, the followers of each area, will think that I am doing the best work, I am doing God's work. How can an intellect decide if the intellect has been mistrained, incorrectly trained in the whole view, the world view? पूरी दुनिया के हिसाब से अगर वो इंटेलेक्ट को ट्रेन नहीं किया गया तो वो इंटेलेक्ट उसको वही यूज करेगा. Then each intellect will use their own resources in their own viewpoint. मेरा ही सही है ऐसे कहने वाले लोग बढ़ जाएंगे, और मेरा ही सही है ऐसे कहने वाले लोग बढ़ गए, विश्व में अशांति हो जाएगी. दुनिया में दुख क्यों है? इसीलिए है, इसीलिए दुनिया में दुख है. Why? So intellect can be misled, intellect can be mistrained. Whom to follow? And that is why the world is problem today. How to resolve it? And there will be in subsequent slokas and chapters, it is clearly given the solution how to resolve this problem. क्योंकि एक कहता है ये करो, दूसरा कहता है ये करो, तो सच्चा क्या है, सच क्या है और क्या करना चाहिए? And that is actually the dilemma of Arjun also. That is why the first chapter itself of Gita is Arjun Vishad Yoga. Arjun Vishad Yoga nama prathamo adhyaya. Why Arjun is in Vishad? Why Arjun is unhappy? Because he has to kill the people whom he is respecting. So whether I should do it or not, that is the question in the mind of Arjun. Intellect, बुद्धि भी भ्रमित हो जाएगी अगर उसको सही तरीके से ट्रेन नहीं किया जाए. So how to train? So I'll just give an indication. We can go in detail, but it will come in subsequent chapters. So we will just touch it. How to develop an intellect which is so clear in the mind. And that intellect can be developed only through the मूर्ति पूजा, idol worship. हम मंदिर में आते हैं, मूर्ति देखते हैं, उसके पीछे बहुत बड़ा साइंस है. There is a big thinking. There is a great science behind it, and that is what Murti Puja is for. The impact on the subconscious level is the solution. Subconscious level में वो solution होता है जब आप मूर्ति पूजा सही तरीके से करते हैं. The true and scientific way of idol worship can only be the way to clean the mind and intellect of all the human beings, even though they are coming from different areas of the world with different backgrounds. But we will stop over here on this sloka because we have to go to the next sloka here. What God is explaining here. So in this sloka, in conclusion, actually God explained us that these three tools which I have given to you is to be used in a correct way. अगर बाहर बर्फ है, if it is slippery road, do not accelerate more. If it is traffic, put your foot on the brake pedal so that you do not bang onto somebody's back of the backside of the car. How to use the tool, at least in general life. If we are not a big shot, if we are not a decision maker in the world, even for our own life, we are decision maker. So how and where to use this tool has to be known, and that is what the God has explained us here in this sloka. That these three are breeding ground. So we'll go to 41st sloka now. I will chant the sloka and then we'll try to understand it. Tasvatmam indriyanyadau niyamya bharatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Tasmatvam indriyanyadau. Tasmat, therefore, what does it say? Therefore, Arjun, therefore, O the best of Bharat, it is very beginning, the sense, it is in the best of the Bharat, in the very beginning, bring the senses under the control and slay this enemy called desire, which is embodiment of sin and destroys the knowledge and realization. So what it is, the knowledge and realization. Knowledge is jnana and realization is vijnana. And it is telling that it is You have to slay it. But what you have to slay? Here also we are going to think about a school of thought. What we have to slay? We have to slay the desire. We have not to slay the senses. We have to slay the desire, but we have not to slay the senses. And it should be done from the very beginning. Because once it goes into a status of habit, it is more difficult to reverse back. So right from the beginning, you slay the part of the desire, so that you will not have any problem of seeing and destroying of the knowledge and the realization. I'll try to talk about a little bit about the Gurukul Paddhati here. What was happening in the old time? Somebody say it is old time. Yes, but sometimes you have to take a reference. In the old time, when the child is 6-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, the child was going to Gurukul. Even though the child is a king's son or a very poor man's son, they all have to go to Gurukul. We know the very great story of Sri Krishna and Sudama. Both of them were going to the same Gurukul, and they were both going to the forest to bring the wood for fire and all that. We know the story. What it means, when a boy, a 6-year-old boy, is taken to the Gurukul, and he has been studied well by the very experienced teacher, that what are the qualities in this boy, what happens? They teach them of that quality. The boy at 6-year-old enters the Gurukul, he doesn't go back home till he becomes 25. 25 साल का होने के बाद वो वापस घर जाता है. Whatever line of education study he has done, at the age of 25, Brahmacharya ashram purna hone ke baad, he goes back to his village, to his home, maybe to his palace if he is a king's son, prince. Imagine एक बच्चा, a child who has been only 6-year-old, he has got very less anything in his memory, goes back home at the age of 25. Can he even recognize his parents? Can he recognize his relatives? The training which he has got is more towards the society, towards the upliftment of people, towards the living for the cause of the nation, towards the understanding of self and the soul. This is the kind of understanding and training he is getting. When a boy gets that training, can we imagine that kind of a boy or a person now who has completed his brahmacharya will do any corruption, any favorism for his family? मेरा मामा है उसको कॉन्ट्रैक्ट दे दो, मेरा भाई है उसको जमीन का टुकड़ा दिला दो. Can we imagine that person will be what kind of a person? Can he be a corruptive human being? Or he will be more a genuine person for betterment of the society? इसके लिए गुरुकुल होते थे. So right from the beginning, the very beginning, बच्चों को पहले से ही संस्कार देने पड़ेंगे. नहीं अभी छोटा है, अभी तो क्या खेलने की उम्र है. And then somebody will say, yeah, that is correct. बच्चों को ऊपर ध्यान देना चाहिए. No, बच्चा is every age you are बच्चा. नहीं, गीता पढ़ेंगे कितने साल हो गए? 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years. 70 years में गीता खोल के पढ़ने का टाइम नहीं मिला, क्योंकि पहले से आदत नहीं लगाई. पहले से गीता is for me and I will study it and I will try to apply it in my life. I always give an example. If I were to learn Tamil, suppose I don't know Tamil, I don't know the Tamil language. If I start learning Tamil at this age, I may be using it for next maybe 15-20 years. By the time I will die. But if I would have learned Tamil language by the age of 10, I can use it for 70 more years. In the same way, the earlier we understand the principles of life from Gita, from Shrimad Bhagavad Gita, the earlier we can apply it. Our life will be much easier and better. Oh, but then we have not done it at a young age. No, my parents never took me there. Okay, it is never late. Start now. Start it now. You are still a bacha. As far as Shrimad Bhagavad Gita is concerned, everybody is bacha. It is such deep. I always say I am a avid student of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Nobody is master. Nobody can master it. Because it is told by God. It is so deep. To master it, you will need to have maybe hundreds of lives. So start it somewhere. And that is the beginning. The meaning of very beginning is the day when you have started doing it. It's not that only the childhood. It is very beginning means you start doing it today. There is a sloka, apiche sudurachar, aure maine bahut bura kar diya hai, abhi kya ye zindagi mein to kuch nahi. No, you can do it today. Start today onwards. Very beginning means today onwards. Then your senses will be in control. And you will slay the desire. Yeah. Now, somebody will say, okay, so senses, so how to control the senses? There is a big school of thought. But before that, let us understand the senses has got impact on each other. So one sense, impact of one sense on another. For example, a blind man has got a better hearing. Why? Because one of the senses has gone, so the other sense is compensating. So by just slaying one sense, it doesn't mean that you will come out of desire. Giving a very cruel example is that somebody cutting off the tongue doesn't mean that he will not feel eating good food. He will still feel it. Cutting or breaking the sense doesn't mean slaying of the desire. There is a rule. And then senses work together and individually. नाक ने कहा बहुत बढ़िया सुगंध आ रही है. The nose told there is a very good fragrance is coming. So the eyes started looking at the direction. Where is the fragrance coming? The nose told this direction. And eyes saw, there is a fresh samosas. And then the tongue will remind, oh, it was very tasty last time. That is how. So the senses work together. So by slaying one sense, it will not stop the feeling of desire. And senses can be deceiving too. Try it sometimes. Try eating a chili shaped and chili colored rasgulla. Mirchi ke jaise dikhne wala rasgulla kha ke dekho. Eyes will say it is a chili, but the tongue will say it is rasgulla. What will happen? Conflict of senses. There are some tests we are done in psychology and looking at the capacity of mind. The words written in a color which is different than its meaning. So a red is written in blue, white is written in purple, and then a person is told to read it. It makes a conflict. The eye is looking at the color, but also the word is different. It's a different color, and that gives a kind of a conflict in mind. There is a study going on. So senses are bad, and they have got limited capacity. Through neurological medicines, we can control to some extent the senses, but it is not controlling. It is not slaying of desire. It is just making it numb. We cannot say that it is actually controlling. So there are schools of thoughts. One school of thought is telling controlling the senses by punishment or reward. The penance, self-punishment in Jainism. अपने आप को there are other schools of thoughts also. जबान के अंदर से किला ठोक दो. Punishing, not to eat or drink for days, hurt yogis, torturing. Can this work? Can this mechanism work? So here when the God is telling slay this enemy called desire, does it mean slaying the senses which are giving us the experience of desire? Or does it mean something different? That we have to think. because this is very, very important school of thought and a very diverse. Gita never says to punish the senses. Gita never says that. But why? What is the mechanism? Why it is told not to do that? We will come next time and we will see that punishing the senses doesn't bring the control of the senses. Control of the senses is different, punishing is different, and then slaying of the desire, how we can achieve it, we will talk about it next time. Till then, in next Wednesday when we meet 6 to 6:45, till then I wish everyone a good time, and we will meet again next Wednesday 6 to 6:45 and go forward on this 41st sloka to see how the slaying of the desire can be achieved. वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं गुरुब्रह्मा गुरुविष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वर गुरुसाक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरुवे